Hello and welcome everyone to the main event today. I'm Mita Sani and I'm really pleased to welcome back our special guest, David Roylance. Hello, David.
Hello, Mita. Hello, everyone. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. So, David, we have quite a meaty topic to be discussing today.
Yeah.
We're talking about the power of self-belief and overcoming imposter syndrome. Now, we did this webinar last year and it was our most subscribed webinar. So really happy to have you back. And so far this year, it's right up there again. Why do you think this is such an important subject?
I think at most everybody has a form of imposter syndrome because I actually think that it has a purpose, but that purpose has been magnified in the wrong direction.
Okay.
So I think that imposter syndrome started as a way of checking in with ourselves on, are we doing something that threatens our status within our community?
So this could go right back to the early days of our existence and almost survival, right?
Yes. If I do this, am I likely to be thrown out of the cave?
Yeah. Are people going to reject me and not believe that I'm worthy?
Yes. Yeah. And the thing is, we're living in a time now where most of us are engaging in rejection on a daily basis without realizing it at a conscious level, but our subconscious does.
Okay.
And by that, I'm talking about social media.
Yeah.
The likes and the need for the likes and the feeling you have when nobody shares or when the post goes, that feeds into exactly the same thing. And so because it gets ramped up by the hypothalamus, which I'll talk more about later.
You're going to do the science.
We get really ramped up on it to the point that our own brains are trying to get us out of almost everything that doesn't fit into the most basic norm.
Right. Okay. So this is sort of primal instinct stuff, and that's why it's probably the most popular because everyone, as you said, has an element of it. And really, what we're talking about today is how we recognize it, how we manage it, and we can't remove it, but we can make it have less impact.
Yes, correct.
Yes. Well,
it's almost like I don't know if you remember, but there was a certain lens that cinema liked to use in particularly in thrillers and horror movies in the 60s and 70s called the fish eye lens. It distorts everything that you see, and it's almost like that's what imposter syndrome is. It distorts everything you see, so everything looks significantly worse than it actually is.
Okay.
And if you can take away the lens and see life properly, not worse, not better, but properly.
For what it is.
For what it is, you can make a huge and honest assessment of whatever it is that's on your mind.
Well, this is going to be a powerful session. David, before we jump in, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. So welcome, everyone. If you've been before, if you're one of our regulars, then I apologize for repeating myself. But we are going to be running through about 45 minutes. We hope to be here till about 1:45 today. We thank everyone that signed up and given their time. We understand that time is precious, so that's why we try to keep it about 45 minutes. But it is an interactive session, and there's already some hellos in the group, which is great. I'm going to show everyone how easy it is just to give us your thoughts, your opinions, let us know you're there. I often see people answering each other's questions in the chat box, which is really lovely. This is a bringing together of a community. So please utilize this time in any way that is going to suit you. David and I promise that whatever we talk about in the next 45 minutes, you will be able to go back to your world and apply some of it straight away to help improve your world. What I also say is that if you're in the room, it's because it's important to you. You might need to make this, bring this to life for others, whether it's colleagues, whether it's managers. So we will send you a recording. This recording will be with you later today. It means that you can rewatch it and you don't have to write notes now, but also put it under the nose of whoever you think may help you create some positive impact in your environment, in your working environment as well. Share it with friends, share it with colleagues, but yeah, let's make this the beginning of the change. And Gary's asked a question about the poll, but Gary, the poll, you can, I like that you're asking, is it only one impact only that you can vote for? It is, and that's a bit of the tech actually, but I understand that there are so many factors that are impacted by imposter syndrome. Put your thoughts into the chat box. That's what I would say. Give us your answers on the poll. Yeah. If there are other ways that you're being impacted or ways that you can't vote for, pop it into the box. I'll be looking at the chat box for the whole session, and we'll make sure we come to it.
And I'd suggest to Gary and anyone who feels similarly, pick the one that resonates absolutely the most as having the biggest impact.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you who might not have seen the poll yet, we are asking today, how has imposter syndrome impacted your life? The first one was about not being able to put yourself forward for opportunities at work. I mean, what sort of scenarios would that bring to life, David?
Okay, so imagine a law firm, a top level law firm. They've got male, they've got female lawyers. An example that I found in my own professional world, mainly serving women in that space, is that men will walk into their boss's office every 6 months and go, pay me more. And whether the answer is a yes or a no, they'll go, oh, okay. And they'll walk out, and then they'll come back 6 months later and say the same 3 words. Whereas most women who are operating at exactly the same level would go, I could never do that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've a really good track record of doing is helping those women to have those conversations and get a successful answer from them. And I think that comes back to that idea of rejection and what rejection would mean.
And there's so many other ways that that will manifest in a working environment. You know, you and I, when we were doing our warm-up, we were talking about, somebody not standing up to speak in a group environment, or putting themselves forward to opt for leading a team, or even asking a question to a colleague. Will I seem stupid if I ask this question?
Yes, well, I did something with a banking group yesterday afternoon, and there were so many people around that table going, well, actually, it's pointless for me to speak up because I know that I'm going to be trodden on.
So making all these assumptions that will have been from learned behavior in other environments that then stop us wanting to put ourselves forward in a work environment.
Yeah, well, they become learned behavior. They also become strategies that will work.
Okay,
it's like you know yourself. Being silent is a strategy that I know works to keep me nice and invisible.
Yeah. So the next option, which actually is second most popular at the moment, is the negative self-talk and self-worth.
Oh,
and
yes.
That is I definitely know some of these resonate with me as well. It takes up a lot of time and headspace, doesn't it, this one?
It does. That voice in your head, which comes from, and if anyone's thinking what voice, that voice. It's the hypothalamus doing its work. So if I can go into the science of this, the hypothalamus is the unconscious mind, and it's the earliest part of the brain to grow in vitro. As we're growing as babies, the first part of the brain is the hypothalamus.
Okay, wow.
That's why it has so much purchase over our lives. It's so strong. However, it's only got one purpose, and that is to keep us alive. So the options available to the hypothalamus are fine or dead.
Okay, it's binary.
Right, that's simple. So even from before we are born, that hypothalamus is learning what keeps us alive, and so it's perfectly happy to put you through hell in here, in your in your mind, in your body, in your gut, and it'll make you feel anything awful. It does not care, as long as it perceives that it's keeping you alive.
And so it's controlling us, essentially. It's literally taking all our headspace to keep us alive. But in this modern world where we're, eating, living, breathing, safety, it still has to do something, and that's why it brings itself out. Is that
absolutely, because it takes its cue from the heart and the way that the heart is operating. So in many ways, the heart is the organ in the human body that has the most control over how we show up. So the hypothalamus is listening for signals from the heart. The heart speeds up. Hypothalamus goes, "Oh, David's in trouble," and then initiates. So it's got nothing whatsoever to do with the conscious mind. But what it does is it really limits our ability to see things properly.
Okay. So this is something, and the reason it's the second highest is because it's not going away. It essentially is something that we're wired to have. But again,
but we can change the story. That's the important thing. We have the power to change the story that it is telling us. It's like removal of the lens. You can actually train that voice to be a genuine critic rather than an unremitting critic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to come to that. That's great. Now, the not valuing your time option, it's not the highest scoring, but it's an important one, isn't it? Because when people, especially in a working environment, think they're not good enough, they end up working crazy long hours and make themselves available at all times. What is that about?
Well, the probability is that everyone in this room is at a very high level of conscientiousness in order to deliver the very best of themselves in the role that they have. Now, what
they hold themselves to a high standard as a result.
Yes. So I always look at two personality traits when I'm working with my one-to-one clients. And aligning them together to find out how likely it is that someone's going to be overgenerous with their time and not look after themselves. One is conscientiousness. Conscientiousness, by the way, is the nearest social predictor of someone being successful. If you are high in conscientiousness,
right?
But I work with that alongside agreeableness. As a personality trait. And the truth is, the people who are most successful are people who are high in conscientiousness, but relatively low in agreeableness.
And do you think that people with imposter syndrome can fall into the agreeable mindset because they want to be liked?
Please like me. It is. So then it's like they'll like me more if I stay late, or they'll like me more if I finish this off. They'll like, and then with every choice, of course, that you make, there is a price to pay.
And
the thing is,
the value of time is just such a powerful and impactful one, because you never get it back. And I think that then feeds into the low self-worth again, when you realize you're doing all of this, but it's not serving you or feeding you, or it's not actually adding any value.
Well, what you have is that a kind of slingshot effect that happens when you're so agreeable, particularly when you're being agreeable towards people who are not agreeable back to you, or people who don't value just how hard you've worked. That there's a massive slingshot into resentment. And then the self-talk around resentment means that you start entering every conversation in what I call a zero-sum game.
I.e., you're just going to give it all up. There's nothing in it for you.
Yeah, or you then start going, how do I gain an advantage? And then you're in a very different space because you're guided by resentment or resentment and anger, you then make presumptions about other people and you try and get one over on them.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can only be really successful if you're applying the principle of win-win for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And the imposter syndrome, it skews that scale, if you like. It means you only look at it from the lens of the benefit to others, not any benefit to yourself.
Yes, because why would you deserve any benefit to yourself if you've got low self-worth?
Yeah. Yeah. So the next option, and it comes at the right time, is the anxiety that then comes from that. I mean, really, I think the anxiety trickles throughout all of it, doesn't it? Every element.
Yes, and the anxiety is the huge level and I remember I worked with a couple of clients that through you, Mita, recently, who came on the scale of 90% anxiety. Like the level of anxiety they were feeling on an everyday basis, thinking that was their baseline state. This is how I am normally. Right. And it's fascinating because one of them sent me an email last week to say how much of a difference it had made our doing this work together. And I met her properly in January. She'd had counseling on her anxiety for 2 years.
Wow. And still was at 90%.
And she was still at the 90%. And the email she sent me last week said it's been a revelation to think differently about this, and it's actually changed the entirety of my life.
And that's days versus 2 years. I mean, that's amazing, David. Yeah. Thank you. Well, that tells everyone in the room today, including myself, that we can go away from this session and actually have solutions already available. But David and I are both available outside of this session as well. And when you get the recording, you'll also get contact details. So let's move into...
important. Before we move on from anxiety, I think it's important for everyone to know, if you do believe that being anxious is your baseline state, it absolutely isn't. And there's so much that you can do for yourself to come out of that and find out exactly what your baseline state is, because when you're in it, you will be able to think properly. So sorry for interrupting, Mita, but I want
No, that's a really good point, actually, because people, when they have that habit for so long, they forget what lack of anxiety or living in a neutral, balanced mindset actually feels like. So the lack of confidence is the next option, and it's actually the most popular in the poll so far. We've just swapped around. I hope everyone can still see us at home.
It said you left the room and now you're back in the room.
I'm here.
You are. You were always there. Yes.
Good. Yes, I am. I haven't gone anywhere. Lack of confidence is the most popular. I think that is that a symptom or a reason? Like, is the confidence creating the imposter syndrome, or is the imposter syndrome manifesting as lack of confidence?
This is a great question.
Okay.
So people believe our bodies before they believe what we say.
Yeah. Okay.
And even worse than that, we believe our bodies before we believe what we say. So confidence is often reflected physically in the world through how we show up.
Right. So it's the feelings you get inside.
Yeah.
It's the thoughts you have in your head.
Yeah.
And because they're there, we believe them to be true.
Yes. Okay. That is true. So especially if you're telling yourself a story about what's going to happen when I do speak up.
Yeah.
Then your body turns you into a self-fulfilling, circuitous delivery device of your own fears, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot in there about what we concentrate on. Tony Robbins says you can't concentrate on something without concentrating on it. Now, I know that sounds a very simple thing to say, but it's true. We often concentrate on the things that we don't want to happen in our lives, and so, for instance, what people are most likely to do when they're waiting for an interview, when they're sitting outside the room waiting for the door to open, is the mind will start visualizing all the ways the interview could go wrong.
Yes. And that's sorry.
Yeah, it was good. And so you then get to a point that your own brain goes, well, if that's what you want, I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Well, you have no space for the alternative because you've consumed your mind with all of the challenges rather than visualizing what good looks like. And it's that whole manifestation thing, isn't it? Don't think I don't want this. Think I do want this. And so it's a training of the mind. Are we saying that confidence?
I think it is. It's important to know that the brain cannot accommodate a negative. So if you think about things you don't want, your brain will absolutely think this is what you do want.
Yeah.
And it'll go out of its way to deliver that to you. And
not look at the operative word, which was do not want this. It gives you this anyway, right?
Because you have to create a thing in order to erase it. Yeah.
So just coming back to the imposter syndrome being caused by the lack of confidence or the other way round, if our heart's going, our hypothalamus is thinking, and then we start to get these feelings, does the imposter syndrome then kick in?
Yes. And so this is the way it works. The heart rate goes up, or it goes up or it goes irregular. Those are the signals the hypothalamus is looking for. Then the hypothalamus will take all of the oxygen from the frontal lobe of the brain where you do your clever thinking, where you do your decision making.
Rational. Yeah.
And it will suck it to the back of the brain because it thinks you need to run really fast from something dangerous.
Sure.
And so you're left with only three things that you can consider in your life. One is to run away. The other is to pretend that you're dead. And the third one is to hit somebody.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. None of which are going to get us anywhere.
None of which are useful, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if anyone in this room has ever had that experience that they've been in a room, it's been very uncomfortable. They're probably getting some unpleasant feedback from somebody in the room, and you just can't think of a thing to say, and you sit there absolutely silent. But the moment you leave the room and you're in the corridor, suddenly you think of 5 or 6 clever things that you could have said in the room, and then you give yourself a hard time for not thinking of them in the room. That's exactly what I'm talking about, because as soon as you're in the corridor and the hypothalamus goes out of danger, then your frontal lobe comes back. And it's only here that you've got the connectivity in your mind to be able to be clever, to respond to stuff. You just can't do it when you're right hypothalamus.
That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. And everyone has been through this. I mean, David, I was looking at some of the stats. 3 in 5 people say they are experiencing imposter syndrome. It's double in women than men. Yeah. It's most prevalent in the 25 to 39-year-old age group. And actually 10% of people are feeling it all the time. I mean, God, that's crippling. I mean, that's exhausting. We've got the last option is goal setting, but we've said we'll come back to that. We're going to talk about personal action plans. I'd love to get to solutions. Being that lack of self-confidence is our most popular answer, one of our areas that we said we would cover is about creating confidence and self-worth, and actually looking at practical strategies of overcoming imposter syndrome. Could we dive into that a little bit?
Yes, of course. So the way that I begin with every one of my clients is through physicality.
Okay.
Because this is people tend to think, and this is the idea behind firms paying for and sending people to counseling as a response to anxiety. But it's like we think, feel, and do. That's the process in the human brain. I think, therefore I feel, therefore I do. So it could be I think I've got to do a presentation on Monday. Eek, I feel really nervous about that. People might see that I'm not very good. I think about that and I feel that way long enough. When I get up and do it on Monday morning, what they'll see is this kind of shrinking, fearful person who's probably speaking very, very fast because they're trying to get it done as quickly as they possibly can, and then they sit down.
Yeah.
Because those are the gathering thoughts. Now, with working with a voice and confidence specialist like me, we would start with the physical, because that's what's going to change the story that's happening in the mind. We've got to undo what the hypothalamus is doing. The moment you have that frontal lobe back to you, you're absolutely fine.
You're rational, you're clear, you're good.
So in terms of, I get people used to standing straight in a position of balance.
Okay, so literally a physical representation. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, because there are, this is something I learned from Patsy Rodenberg, who was my voice mentor, way back when I was at drama school in the 90s. I had a 3-year voice training with her. And for anyone in the room who doesn't know who Patsy Rodenberg is, she was Barack Obama's voice coach in his first presidential election campaign.
Right.
So she taught me there are 3 different levels of energy in the way that we communicate with others. We need all 3 levels of energy to go through life, because you can't always be present. The thing is, only one of those 3 levels of energy are a state of presence. The first level of energy is what I call the introvert state, is when we're going backwards, we're shrinking away.
Yeah.
Now, if I demonstrate something to you, and all I'm going to do in a moment is take my weight backwards, so I'm carrying it on the heel of the foot. And what I would like to hear from everyone in the room is, what do you notice that's different both physically and vocally as I do it? Yes?
All right. Give us your comments in the chat boxes, everyone.
In the chat box. So all I've done is I put my weight back onto the heel of the foot. That's it. That's all I've done. I'm not augmenting my voice at all. I've just put my weight back on the heel of the foot. And I'd like to know what people can hear is different, and what people register from my physicality is different. And I know there's a
delay,
slight delay in the chat box. So Helen, quieter, absolutely. What else do you notice? And Mita, what do you think when you see me now?
I was going to say, I feel like there's no power. Like, I feel like it's very soft. Even though it's quieter, it's also soft. You look more relaxed, Emma says.
Interesting. And
grounded.
Here, if you noticed, my breath is in the chest. So my heart rate is higher when I'm doing. I've lost about 2/3 of my vocal range. I can only speak in the middle. Also, if everyone in the room closes their eyes and just listens to this voice for a minute, and if I came into the room just now and you'd never heard me before, what emotional state would you imagine this voice is in? Just now, just as if we haven't done the last half hour together.
I'd say very calm, very, very neutral, not overexcited.
Interesting, because it's shrinking back. There's a level of anxiety in the breathing, because it's the breath up here in the chest means the breath is short. I can't do full sentences on one breath.
Right.
I've got no access to the lower notes or even the higher notes. And so it makes me a little indistinct. Yeah, it could look, because we like to sit back in chairs, don't we, and be nice and relaxed. But actually, we're not in a state of presence.
Okay.
When we do that.
Sonia said that you started concentrating on your balance, not what you're saying.
Yeah,
and actually, it means that you're losing impact essentially by leaning back. Is that what that?
Yes. So that backward movement for many people is a stress default.
Okay.
It's where you go when you feel out of your comfort zone, or when the voice in your head is going, "Don't do that thing, David.
Yeah.
Don't speak now. Don't." Right. So that's one, and then I'm going to skip forward. Come up on my toes. This is another one. It's not the extrovert state, but I call this the convincing state.
Yeah.
And when you see someone doing this, what is it you get? When
you can literally feel the energy. I want to hear from the room what you guys are getting, but I can definitely feel it's the Tony Robbins.
Right up, and so it's like I call it the convincing state because it's the place that people go to who are bad salespeople. Like if anyone has ever been sold a secondhand car.
Yeah, the classic sales scenario.
Classic. Oh no, it's got your name written all over it. You really need this. That sort of desperation that you get when you speak to salespeople 2 days before month end. It's like
intimidating.
Like Helen says, it's intimidating
and aggressive.
Yeah. So
it's almost your personal space, isn't it?
Well, as an actor, I learned so much about when other actors tried to sound impressive, and you get this particularly with young actors doing Shakespeare. They try and sound impressive, and it's very easy to sound impressive, but it has no connection at all. There's nothing authentic behind it. You can really tell from the breath, and so that coming forward, that third circle state, as I call it, is another stress default. Now, what the social science tells us is that the first circle, the shrinking away, is more likely to be a female stress default, and the third circle, the stepping forward, the, if you like, facing up against somebody else, is more of a male stress default. So we are really talking fight or flight.
Sure. Okay.
Yes. Now, everyone will have one of those two as a stress default.
Okay.
That they go to when they're fearful. So when you see men going there, men trying to do that, they're just as fearful inside. And what they're doing is they're putting on a mask in the hope that nobody notices. It's all coming from the fear that I might be found out.
Yeah.
So there's like, I tell you what, I might be found out, so I'm going to go completely invisible. Or I might be found out, so I'm going to put on what I think they want to see.
And not give them any time to even think for themselves, but just take everything I'm saying. So,
Totally. Yeah. In the middle, in a state of balance. So you notice that the first circle, the center of gravity is outside the back of your body. The third circle, your center of gravity is out front.
Yeah.
The second circle is the position of presence.
Okay. And
the second circle is when you're in balance and the breath drops right down into the stomach.
Okay. So we've just, before you go into it, we had a comment from Mira asking about getting our breathing and heart more relaxed. Is that helpful?
Yes. So if you are breathing in the stomach, your breath will be low and slow. And if you're breathing in the chest, it will be high and shallow. So breath nice and slow, heart rate down. Heart rate down, frontal lobe activated. You can see, so it gives you permission to put all of the marvelous antenna that you've got, all the awareness that you can have about what's going on in a room, can only happen in second circle.
Okay.
So it's only when you're in that state of presence that you can think properly about who's sitting over there, who do I need to aim this to? How do I make my voice reach the person on the other side? How do I hear people's breathing so that I know the right moment to go, I'd like to add this?
Yeah. It starts with the self-awareness and self-control of the mind-body breathing connection.
Absolutely. And it's only when the breath is down in the stomach that you can use a powerful voice. Every one of us who's got a voice box in here has got a powerful voice, whether you believe it or not. To those in the room who might be thinking, oh no, I've got a quiet voice, or no, I have a powerful voice, you possess it here. You may not be using it yet, but you possess everything here that allows you to have a level of power that can have massive impact. And, 18 years ago when I met Patsy Rodenberg at Heathrow Airport, and she was off to work with Barack Obama, and I was off to do a theater directing job in Germany. Yeah. And she said, I'm working with this senator called Obama. The Democrats are very concerned about him. He's got no presence. He's got no charisma. And
look at him now.
And look at him now, right?
Yeah.
And so yes, it's impressive, but I mention it because I want to impress upon anybody I speak to that if he can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. 100%. And David, what you're saying is that if you can work on the physical presence and getting your breath down, you can get the voice, but the confidence, what did you say? The mind believes the body. Then the mind starts to believe the body in a positive way.
Well, there's a huge range. We're born with a huge vocal range that we learn how to use less and less of. And that when we're adults and we're dealing with anxiety or we're dealing with imposter syndrome, and it makes us shrink away, most likely, and that shrinks the voice, and the voice that comes out doesn't sound powerful and then self-fulfills. We hear it and go, oh God, nobody wants to listen to that.
Yeah.
So I think I won't bother.
Yeah. And you shrink away and it just peters off. I mean, there are so many people that go through the cycle and don't even realize what they're doing. And there are people that will have gone through the David instantaneous solution of how to overcome. Someone taught me this power position. It's the shoulders back, it's slightly lifted, and I'll do it in the office before I go and do a big meeting, or I'll do it in the bathroom before I go and do a presentation. Is that the same sort of thing?
It is similar, although there's a danger that a lot of power posing can put you in that third circle state.
In your face.
In your face, yes.
Yeah.
So the thing is, when an animal wants to look threatening, it expands.
Yeah. Yeah.
In order to look so. We don't want to look threatening. We want to look present. Yeah. It's like we want to look energized. We want to look like we've got energy. Daniel Priestley, in his book Key Person of Influence, talks about how in the world of work, people are you've got two types of people. You've got people who are functional, and you've got people who are vital. And by vital, I mean they have vitality.
Okay.
They enter the room and the energy is palpable.
Yeah.
They speak and everyone else shuts up.
Yeah.
And in any organization, the people at the top who are paying you look down at everyone that they pay, and either they think, how much does she cost me?
Yeah.
Or they think, wow, what a lot I get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's the difference between thinking of someone as a commodity or thinking of someone as an asset, an investment.
Yeah.
And the key is, if everyone who's vital, everyone who's an asset will do well. But to do that, you've got to radiate the energy. The people who are hiding are the people who are functional. And the people who are functional are easily replaceable with somebody else who fulfills the title.
Yeah. So in that phrase, when they say everybody's replaceable, actually, if you're vital, you're far less replaceable.
No, yeah. So, and this is a great way. I've used this a lot with clients who are being headhunted, but because the value they demonstrate extends so far beyond just delivering on the job, that the energy they bring to being in the room is like, there's no way we're losing her.
Yeah.
So what do we need to pay her in order that she stays?
Yeah, completely. So, David, we've talked a bit about the physical impact that we can make on confidence and eliminating imposter syndrome. What about the negative self-talk and the improving self-worth? Because that's really time-consuming. It's I can talk about this from my own experience. It's draining, and you never make space for the stuff that's good and is going to help you do better and be better. How can we deal with that? How can we deal with the mind, the monkey in our mind that's going crazy?
Yes, we have to have a separate conversation, as in. So there's an exercise that I do called the 3-chair exercise, because there's 3 chairs in it. Very simple. Okay. And you put them together in a triangle, and what you do is you think about the thing that makes you anxious, or the thing that is causing you to have all of this negative self-talk. Mm-hmm. And it could be your career, it could be money, it could be a relationship, it could be anything. What you do is you sit in a chair with another chair opposite, and you put that thing in the chair in your mind's eye, and you imagine whatever you imagine, you see whatever you see. I with a lot of my clients I've done a lot of money work with, they often see things like a treasure chest that's locked but no key, or prison bars, or all sorts of things that whatever you imagine is not wrong, because this is yours.
Yeah.
But you then say to that thing that's in the other chair everything that you want to say. Get it all out. Get all that negativity out. And then what I get my clients to do is stand up, shake that energy off, and then sit in the other chair and become the thing.
Okay. And
then as the thing, you talk to yourself. You see yourself in the first chair, and you go, well, actually, what's fascinating is, and I've never had it happen that someone's had a negative experience of being the other thing that's causing the anxiety or the self-talk. That other thing is always going, I'm actually trying to help you.
Yeah. What you think is not actually what is.
Yeah. Then the reason there's a third chair is because after you've been in that second chair, you want to sit in the third chair, the observer chair, and see in your mind's eye, see the thing, see yourself, so that you can go, oh, that's interesting. I've noticed that, and then when you go back into being yourself again, you take the learning away. You've let it all out, but you've also got another perspective.
Yes, that was the word that came to me, is perspective. So essentially, we are taking a lot of thoughts and a lot of negativity that goes into our minds, and we're giving it a place and an understanding, which then stops it holding that power.
Yeah.
Perspective.
Yeah.
With so many different things that are holding you back and creating that imposter syndrome.
You can do it lots with all sorts of things that might be holding you back. Because you can imagine anything, and your unconscious mind. Thing is that you can want success with your conscious mind, like nobody's business. But if your unconscious mind doesn't want you to have success because it sees success as a threat. The same way that lots of people, because they consciously want to be in a relationship that works, but the unconscious mind doesn't, because the unconscious mind never got over the last time that it didn't work.
Yeah.
And so then all this sabotaging all over the place, that all comes from the unconscious mind, not the conscious mind. And so we can't work on it with the conscious mind. We have to give the unconscious mind space. And the unconscious mind works much better in images than it does in words.
Mira from the group says being conscious of your unconscious mind.
Yeah.
So this chair exercise is that.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to let your unconscious mind tell you.
Do you know what, David? You know what I'm taking away from this is that we have to spend the time outside of the situation to not to get a grip. I was going to use the word get a grip, but that's negative self-talk again. It's sort of almost telling myself that, you know, I shouldn't be having these feelings. The fact is, it's all part of us. I think what you've really brought to life today is that the hypothalamus is in there. Imposter syndrome is natural. It's going to happen. The items that we're feeling, challenges of money, people, work, we could actually put ourselves in their shoes and be, you know, have more understanding of the disconnect with what we think versus what is. And so actually all the solutions are inside us. But if we don't make that time for ourselves, if we don't value ourselves and want to move forward from where we are, it's not going to happen. So what we tell us is true. If we say I've got imposter syndrome and it's going to cripple me, it will. And if we say I've got imposter syndrome and I'm going to overcome it, that will be true as well. So it's what you decide you want for yourself.
Yes. Absolutely, it's what you decide and what you can do. You know, in the same way that if a child is having a tantrum, removing it to a different place normally ends the tantrum. Tantrums are often related to the geography of where you're at. Yeah. You know, if it happens in the kitchen, remove them to the hallway, and suddenly something changes. And in personal development, they say if you want to become rich, go hang out where rich people hang out. You know, go if you want to make a plan for yourself, go sit in an opulent 5-star hotel lobby, order a nice coffee. Yeah, and learn and absorb, you know, the energy from being in that place. So often we have to take ourselves out of the, you know, particularly if you're in a workplace where perhaps the energy is not always helpful towards you. That in order to work on yourself, you have to divorce yourself from that energy, kind of get away and find a space where you can focus on you in order to be present. The other thing that can often happen, this happens with the firm I worked with for you earlier this year, is that people absorb so much of the negativity around them, whether it's coming from management or it's coming up from people they manage, and they've got nowhere to put it, because they're just taking it on and thinking it's their own responsibility. And that becomes physically debilitating and emotionally debilitating. And you imagine how those people show up when all of that gnarliness is sitting deep in their stomach, you know.
David, I've just realized we've gone over time. I could continue this forever. We need to make a part 2. But thank you so much. Thank you to everyone in the room for your contribution, for making the time for yourselves. And David, I need a parting statement from you, something that you want everyone to go away with today that's going to help us.
Yes. So I'll come back to this. You've got a choice of being functional or vital. And so choose vital. Choose the energy in which you go through life that will then help you to go, no, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Amazing. Be vital, choose vital. That's the takeaway from today. David, thank you so much. I'm sorry I ran over a little bit, everyone, but this is very, very powerful stuff. So really appreciate it, David. Happy Galentine's for today. Happy Valentine's for tomorrow. It starts with self-love and self-care, I think. That's
otherwise you can't love anyone else, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, on that note, thank you, everyone, for your feedback. And we're going to say bye for now. Bye, everyone.
Bye for now. Bye.